I'm Martin, part of the investment team at Visionaries Club, where I'm actually looking at a broad range of verticals. But the one concept I'm always incredibly excited about is actually beautiful products. And in the following session, we will take a closer look at especially the productivity charge of workflows. So after the popularity of unbundling and highly verticalized solutions, now kind of the focus in the market is on achieving full frictionlessness, and workflows that used to be executed inefficiently with multiple isolated tools can now be integrated and automated or replaced with a more efficient platform built around user experience mostly. So we are really, really delighted to welcome two really seasoned entrepreneurs, Andrei Husid, founder of Miro, and Koen Bok, founder of Framer. And they have built two of the most impressive products in B2B with state-of-the-art user experience, and we cannot be more excited to have them today. So Andrei has been building Miro, an online whiteboarding platform with a vision to enable co-creation among people working from different locations. And what's really exciting is that launching as a consumer-focused tool and growing into a leading team collaboration product, fully reinventing the concept of how you put ink on paper, underlies what we really mean by consumerized B2B. And Koen is founder of Framer, and Framer is the leading tool enabling product designers to prototype new ideas and focus on feel and experience without friction in a time where digital products are actually all about continuous iteration. And if you ever wondered how so many of the products you love and use on a daily basis, such as Spotify, are built, the answer is pretty much Framer. And now we'd love to jump onto some questions, actually maybe to the first one, to Andrei. So we'd love to learn about the concept of how much did your customers shape your current product DNA, what you have with Miro, versus rather you pushing through with the vision you had on day one of the company and how that changed. And obviously, if Koen, you would like to also jump in, would love to hear your take as well with Framer.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, great to be here. Great to meet all of you. So definitely customers and market dynamics shape our product along the way. And we are continuously meeting kind of enterprise administration compliance requirements. And that's kind of how we intake the customers' feedback. At the same time, we try to innovate on the end user value, as well as working on kind of top customer requests that we get from our community. So I would say it's kind of a mix of everything. We had a vision. We want to be a visual collaboration platform. We want to empower teams to create the next big things. We want it to be wall-to-wall product. But then the question is like how to get there. And getting there is dictated by what you do and what you not do. And as I said, in that mix, you can see both requests, feedback, and a little bit of the kind of vision that we want to bring to the product, to the market. So that's how we do it.
Thank you. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, thanks for having me. Yeah. So for us, it's also I think the vision was always pretty clear with Framer. We thought that like products would become the most important thing that companies build, because a lot of companies are becoming sort of digital products first, right? Like if you're a bank or an airliner, it's not really about the airplane or the building anymore. It's about sort of the digital product that you put out. So that was a big trend that we saw. And the vision was like all these products are interactive, and us being interactive designers, we thought it was kind of weird that we were making pictures of these products that had to sort of animate and be interactive and respond. And working at Facebook, we saw this firsthand, inventing some of the, the Facebook paper stuff and chat heads and a bunch of interactive stuff that you just couldn't really make in static tools. So the big vision was always the same. We thought, well, designers or interactive designers need an interactive tool or an interactive first tool to express these things. So the vision is pretty clear. But then we started as a very hackable tool, and we still are. So a lot of people kind of extend Framer based on what they really want to do. But that also means that you discover a whole bunch of cool new things that you never thought the tool could do, right? Because hackers are always going to hack. So that's actually like the biggest feedback loop that we have with the customers. We see something really take off because somebody's extending in the tool in a way that we didn't really expect. And that's sort of the best customer feedback that you can get.
Interesting. And if we continue that line of conversation, I'm sure you had time where you really needed to pivot with the product in itself. So it would be great to learn what was the lesson you possibly learned the hard way, and what was the time where you were receiving, maybe user feedback, maybe the vision that you imagined from the first day, and essentially how you sense that this is the point where we need to change something and let go of some of the fundamentals that we imagined, I don't know, for the next couple of months or years?
Yeah, you got like small and large pivots. And I think we did a very big one where we at some point kind of figured, well, we're a very popular tool, but only pretty technical designers can use us. So we have to figure out how to bring sort of the power of programming to people that might not be engineers. So sort of the concepts that developers use, like composition, components, variants, all that stuff, used to be only available from code. And our big job was to figure out how to make that available, or how to empower people to use the same concepts without having to learn how to code. Otherwise, we would have stayed a very small product. So I want to say that's sort of the biggest pivot that we went through, from being like an engineering first tool to sort of a canvas first tool. And not everybody likes that. So it always takes a little bit longer. I mean, you always have, especially if you're successful in the beginning, you have a group that really likes the previous iteration of the product. And you kind of have to navigate that very carefully. And it always takes a little bit longer than expected. So same for us, but I'm still very happy that we did that.
So then if you have to name one success factor in building these solutions in B2B, especially around charge productivity, what would that be? If there is one make or break thing, if not, then obviously it's a composition of things, but we'd love to get your take, both of you, to kind of give some insights on that as well.
I mean, the success factor, I think, for tools like these are like a really good product that creates sort of a velocity funnel. And that's the SaaS term, but it typically means that you get like small teams to just pick up the product in large companies. And then basically, so your product finds bottoms up adoption throughout the rest of the company. If you can figure that out, then you'll grow pretty quickly. If you don't really have that, it's going to be pretty tough, and you're going to need all these sales top-down people to make it work for you. But that's very different and way harder.
Yeah, I want to say exactly the same. So strong end user adoption, when your users become your champions and evangelize your product within the organization, makes it a very different type of experience in further marketing, sales, and customer success across the organization. So I strongly believe that's the thing that you have to start with in today's world. Not every software can be built in that way. So for example, there are HR systems. It's hard to say that they can be adopted bottoms up, but the majority of B2B tools can do that, like regardless of the problem they solve.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I mean, both of you are active angel investors, and you have built successful products yourself. So then turning the table a little bit into the other direction, what are some of the key mistakes you often see behind B2B products that these founders get wrong on a recurring basis?
Yeah, I can start. So maybe one of the major issues that I see with those who try to build B2B SaaS software is that people try to do things that don't scale. So for example, they optimize for one big customer. Let's say, for example, offer on-premise licensing, and it doesn't match the kind of direction where the market is developing, and it will not match the majority of the potential customer base, but they can deroute from the major path that majority of SaaS products take today. And I would say that you have to say no many times. So for example, when our ARR several years ago, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, was around like, I don't know, $1 million, I think 4 years ago. So there was a customer who came and said, like, we will pay you $3 million annually, just make an on-premise solution for us. And I said no. And then next year they came and said, you still have a best solution on the market. Can we buy it like in our integrated cloud? I said no. And then last year they came and said no. And this year they bought a SaaS solution. So it's like you have to do hard choices and you have to do trade-offs to be consistent with the strategy and the market dynamics. And I see that as one of the major problems, because we all want more revenue, we all want more traction with the best-in-class customers, but there are hard choices along the way.
Yeah, specifically regarding that example, I said yes to an on-prem solution, never got it implemented. We built the whole thing and then they never used it. So I wish I made your choice. And so I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that. I think the other side is that it's really easy in the beginning to mix up sort of product value with enterprise value. So the thing that gets the users in your door is definitely not the things that companies actually is going to get them excited to pay for. And it's pretty counterintuitive for product folks to figure out what enterprises want to pay for, because a lot of enterprise value comes out of reselling a CDN or like integration with their SSO system, stuff that seems kind of boring and kind of lame, actually, if you're in product. But it's extremely important for companies to have this infrastructure in place. So there's a lot of infrastructure around the product that just needs to be implemented in enterprises. And that's really where you're making your money from. So things that are really good hints that you're mixing the two up is if you're starting to feature gate features that are useful for everybody, and then only allow them to be used by enterprises. Like the best enterprise gating features are especially around the thing that only gives value to enterprises, like security and redlining contracts and account managers and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing these really interesting insights. And as Andre and Kunven's founders who already walked the path of forming unique product DNAs themselves, will be asking them the questions from our next generation of entrepreneurs at Visionary. So then I would hand over to them and my colleague Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby, part of the Visionary's investment team. As such, one of the things I focus on is workplace productivity. That's why I'm particularly excited to introduce you to all the amazing investments we made in the productivity space today. At Visionaries Club, we truly believe that learning is key to success. That's also why we connect every single one of our portfolio companies to leading entrepreneurs and masters in their respective field. We know that learning from those who've overcome challenges in the past and mastered the things that you're working on now is amazing. That's why we're particularly excited to back Felix, who's revolutionizing the way we're going to learn. Over to you, Felix.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. So exciting to talk to all of you. And with Trana, we are building the next generation of training software, or learning workspaces, as we call them. And to put it a little bit more practically, what that means is that we enable companies that have complex SaaS products or complex services to create online trainings and online academies to not only train internals like employees, but more or less also train externals like customers and employees. So what we've seen is that that the incremental part of a customer journey can also be very, very tied to learning. And that's the reason more or less why we are building Trana. And one of the biggest reasons also we started it is because I was looking for a solution to create an online academy and to create online courses for a professional purpose myself. And I've been absolutely unsatisfied with the software landscape out there. So there is MOOCs that you find there like Coursera and Udemy, and there is enterprise learning management systems. But apparently, as we found it, there was no technical revolution in the past 20 years. So we have been more or less made it our mission to apply modern software approaches like API first and integration first and no code and low code to apply it to the learning software segment, and maybe potentially be a big enabler also in creating a new category of making learning an integrated part of the customer journey and fighting churn and boosting retention.
All right, and then I'm supposed to ask a few questions, but also just want to say that I really like Trana as a product, because my secret side mission has always been to get every designer to learn, to teach every designer how to program. So I've always been looking for a tool like this that was really good in terms of providing a very easy to use format to create these courses so that others can pick it up. And I hope it will really unleash tons of new sort of ways of learning on the internet that anybody can make and anybody can contribute to, and a lot of people can learn from. So going into the questions, I know, Felix, that you're very close to sort of shipping your first version. And shipping is always the hardest thing, especially in the beginning. So what's the one thing that has been proven the hardest for you to get it out of the door, to get it to your first customers?
It's a very interesting question, because we are exactly at this point. I think we were pretty fast in going to 80% of getting an understanding what we need, all the requirements, and actually building data structures and building a product that works. But the last 20%, let it be deployment, or let it be, for instance, I give an example, let it be user experience, that we only experience that is not working in the holistic picture of Frana once we had it live. We even had prototypes in Framer and in Figma, and we were going all the user routes. But finally, having a deployed version on testing, we were like, no, we can't ship that. It doesn't work like that. So we really needed to reiterate and go the last 20% back and reship, more or less. I would say last 20% is the hardest.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Hey, and in sort of all your prototyping and building your testing version, I'm sure that as a learning product, you found something very counterintuitive about how people learn. And as a learning tool, I'm just very, very interested in all your tests. What's been the most surprising property of a learning tool that you run into in the way that people kind of soak up information? What's the key thing that you need to nail so that your tool becomes a success?
I think the bottom line, especially for learning complex topics, is that you need to move away from passive learning approaches that mean I'm consuming a video or I'm reading a paper, and more transitioning into an interactive state of learning. So you really apply what you want to learn. And you see tools like Codecademy, or you see tools like Code Sandbox, whereas you are able to directly start programming in the web without dependencies, without setting up any IDE. And that's the biggest challenge, I would say, also for Trana, to making it such an open system so that people build integrative tools and really apply learning and methods within the tool itself. I think that's the bottom line.
Thank you, Felix. It's impressive what you built in such a short time, and we're really looking forward to what's to come. In 2019, Zoom hosted roughly 100 billion minutes of video calls. In 2020, this figure exploded to 3 trillion. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's sick and tired of video calls, and Zoom fatigue is a real thing. We need to face that. We believe there must be a better way than the status quo, and we also think there already is. It's called Acapella. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. Hey, we are Roland and Heikki, and we are the co-founders of Acapella. And Acapella is the first dedicated collaboration platform for remote and hybrid work. And it enables well-structured asynchronous communication to help you feel more connected with your team while having fewer but better meetings and less interruptions throughout your day.
As second-time founders, we started Acapella end of last year to tackle one of the frustrations that we had with our previous companies: ineffective team collaboration. I have a computer science background, and I started a company in the DevOps tool space for machine learning teams, and Roland co-founded Dubsmash, a predecessor to TikTok that reached over 100 million downloads. While working on our last companies, it was clear that we need better collaboration tools, and after the pandemic hit the world and the global workforce went into this huge remote work experiment, we quickly realized that the current tools that people use are far from optimal. Many teams try to collaborate remotely exactly as they had worked in the office, and that didn't really work. As a result, people got stressed out with too many meetings, cluttered calendars, exploding Slack threads, Zoom fatigue. You've probably seen it all. We talked to dozens of companies that were fully remote already before the pandemic, and we learned from them that they relied mostly on asynchronous collaboration for their internal work.
Exactly, and asynchronous communication means that you start the conversation, but you don't expect an immediate response. You can start the conversation also earlier, even if the other person is not available at that time, and that means you don't have to schedule anything. You can just start the conversation. And actually, we already know this behavior from every day, from WhatsApp, from Slack, from email. However, those tools were not built for the complex environments of remote and hybrid teams. And Acapella is the first collaboration platform specifically focused on this unique way of working. And in our first version of the product, we actually focused on one of the major pain points, which was replacing this kind of trillions of Zoom calls and replacing a lot of those Zoom calls with asynchronous meetings. And instead of sitting through hour-long video calls, you can transform the calendar event into an asynchronous meeting space where people can then contribute over time. And just to make this a little bit more tangible, I would just like to showcase the product and give you a little bit of a sneak peek here. So what you can see here is basically an asynchronous meeting space in Acapella. And for the sake of the example, I just picked basically this Visionaries Unplugged live session and tried to replace it with an asynchronous meeting space here. And what you can see is that on the left-hand side, you have all the information from the calendar event. So you have the title, you have the participants here, and some meta information. And then you have a very important part of Acapella, which is the structure, the agenda here on the left-hand side. So all the meeting is basically structured by those agenda points. And you can easily add another agenda point by just clicking here, and everyone can do that. And you can basically just add it here. And now let's look into the interesting part. Let's look into how the collaboration actually works inside of the tool. And basically, Acapella is not just focused on text collaboration, but you can also use voice and video and documents. And this makes the whole thing way more rich and way more personal. And you can see here, for example, Heikki just sent me a voice message. And you can probably not hear it, but there's audio, but also a transcript that you can seek and that you can look through and search for. Then, of course, you also have video functionality. Here you have Heikki sending me a video.
I'm the second co-founder. I have a technical background, so I am the person building the tool that...
Exactly, and again, we have a transcript underneath and some functionality like also playback speed and so on to make this way more easy to consume. Maybe the one more and very interesting part, of course, of working inside of Acapella is integrating other tools and showcasing integrations. And just for the product demo, I thought this is a little bit meta to do a product demo inside of a product demo. So I just added this GIF here. And I can also just, for example, we have an integration with a Loom. And I can just quickly add a Loom link here. And by adding this Loom link, it's automatically turned into this player. And you can see the Loom video that I previously recorded. So that's a quick sneak peek how you can asynchronously discuss kind of this session as well.
Roland already showed you how to start a conversation from a Loom, but we're also working on a lot of other exciting integrations. You can start the discussion around a GitHub pull request or a Confluence doc, a Figma doc, or Miro, whatever your team is currently using. And you start the conversation asynchronously on Acapella, and then finally jump on a call if you need to wrap it up for something. The future of work will be hybrid, and so will Acapella.
So this was a sneak peek of what we're doing at Acapella. And if you're interested in getting early access, just sign up at acapella.com. To wrap it up, we are super excited about the future of work. The pandemic has moved the world into a remote setting, and in the future, most companies will work in a hybrid setup. Whether you are a hybrid or fully remote, you will have similar requirements for tools and processes with a strong focus on asynchronous communication. Acapella is here to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Roland. Acapella already looks amazing, and we're so excited what's yet to come. I would say I'm a pretty big tool nerd myself, and in the past year, I've checked out hundreds of to-do apps. Probably actually checked out all of them, and to be honest, none of them got it quite right yet. That's until now, because with the team of Superlist, we are backing a crew that's getting every single detail right. I'm confident that they will once and for all solve the to-do app problem. Without further ado, over to you, Stefan.
Awesome. Thanks very much for inviting me, and also thanks very much for the intro. Yes, we are trying, or we're working on becoming the tool or the one tool for project and task management. And the way we're doing that is by what Koen and Andre focused on before, is we're focusing on a bottom-up approach. And that means that the core user that we're looking at is not the project manager, so not the person who's usually the addressee of project management tools, but we're looking at the individual contributors. We're looking at the 80, 90, 95% of the people who are part of projects, but who are individuals and who have individual needs. And it might sound a little bit esoteric or phony saying that, but the way we're doing that is we're trying to distill everything down to a more humane experience. Because like I said, every individual has individual needs. The way that Andre might be organizing a project or his tasks is not necessarily the way that I want to work. And therefore, flexibility is a big aspect of things that we're looking at, and a few others, but Andre, maybe you have questions around that.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Stefan. I'm a big kind of fan, and I'm excited about what you're building and want to try that out as soon as possible. My first question to you would be, why you personally passionate about solving the problem for teams, for kind of B2B rather than individuals?
I could go on probably for hours now answering that question. So I'm generally, I have been passionate about productivity for a long time. And before Superlist, we developed another tool. And the reason I'm passionate about it is that it's just an everyday problem. Every single person, privately or in a business context, everyone has things that they want to get done, small tasks, bigger projects, but stuff that they want to get done. And I personally, I've tried a lot of different tools, and eventually I stopped using all of them, even though some of them did help me. And at the end of the day, the reason why none of them was sticky enough was because they were just too technical. They were too much focused on efficiency only, on helping me do more of the same thing, but in a quite an inhumane way, so to say. And therefore, I stopped using them because emotionally they were not rewarding. And I do think, I'm very sure that it's challenging, but it's possible to create a productivity tool that combines productivity aspect with the emotionally rewarding aspect. And that's what we want to solve.
That's great. And maybe another question. You mentioned that every person has their own needs. Do you have any specific personas in mind that you want to start with? Or you try to build a tool from the very beginning for everyone?
Well, the personas, we excluded specific personas. So that the personas that we've excluded for the beginning, like I said, it's project managers, it's middle and upper management, because their way of working is somewhat different. And then also we know that we're not going to be focusing on developers, because there are just so many tools for developers to organize. And also they're good ones, and developers are one of the few people who follow very predefined work streams. So these are the personas that we're excluding. What I am very interested in, and that's also the overlap to Visionaries, is there's this huge market of small and medium companies that are now starting to digitize, that have realized that COVID also struck them, and they can't use in-office tools anymore. And I think there's a huge opportunity to offer them a product that is helpful, that is humane, that is usable and understandable for people who are not as technical as probably the crowd that we're seeing in here.
That's great. Yeah, very interesting approach to exclude personas rather than focus on specific personas at the very beginning. So yeah, all the best with your launch. Hope to try it out soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stefan. Your product really deserves the name Superlist. On to another type of lists, spreadsheets. Microsoft introduced Excel in 1985, and to be honest, it still looks a lot like it did back then. It's 2021 now, and we believe that spreadsheets really deserve an update. Humberto, over to you.
Thanks, Bobby. It's a pleasure to be here, so thanks for inviting me. Spreadsheets have been around for quite a while indeed. And if you look at Microsoft Excel, which has been the hallmark of this productivity space, they've been around for a couple of decades now. But they were created prior to the internet itself. And so the way you connect and trade spreadsheets, it's been mostly files, and you send files through an email, and it's quite cumbersome. And even connections to databases and APIs are inexistent or extremely hard to create in Microsoft Excel. Then if you see the next big revolution after Microsoft Excel, it's been Google Sheets. They were also created prior to the smartphone revolution and prior to the explosion of APIs. And so they have these two problems. So they don't deal super well with sharing, right? So when you share a spreadsheet, you always see this cumbersome grid, and then someone accidentally deletes a formula, right? So we needed a better way to share spreadsheets on smartphones and tablets and all of these different form factors, and also a better way to connect to this super rich world of APIs. And this is kind of like where ROSE comes in. We are a spreadsheet, like Google Sheets, like Microsoft Excel. However, we try to be very natural, very native to this world of APIs, the internet, and multiple devices and multiple form factors. I would also like to take this opportunity to show you how the product looks like. And we prepared this very short video where you can see how to set up a spreadsheet and really the power behind the spreadsheet rows and what you can do with integrations, with our connections to APIs, and with our sharing system.
ROSE is a spreadsheet where teams work faster. Let's see how we can use ROSE to automatically get a list of tweets from any account. Let's start by typing Twitter and see what we can do. What we want to do is search user tweets from Twitter. I'll pick the username easily, A1. Here it is. Now I get the data back. I can quickly build a table with the tweets from ROSE. Here they are. Now I have a list of the tweets, the text, the URL, how many likes and how many favorites it had. I can quite rapidly format it, right? Add some background color to get a little bit of light. And finally, to make this more interactive, I can transform this and add buttons, checkboxes, and input fields, really to make it easy for other people to use this spreadsheet. I can now publish it as a live spreadsheet. And as you see, it transformed now. It doesn't have formulas. It just is really nicely well formatted. And I've made this interactive so that if I come here, I change this from ROSE to Disney, I can see this automatically updating the table with the latest tweets from Disney. Right? Just building this spreadsheet automation, all using formulas without having to code.
We should also talk a little bit about use cases, right? So I think where ROSE shines especially well, where we've had more success, has been around 3 core use cases. The first one is lead generation and sales automation. Right? So because we have these connections to LinkedIn data and to your CRMs, you can automate all of these processes of finding companies, filtering, validating emails, etc., and then adding them to Salesforce or HubSpot or MailChimp or whatever tool you're using. The second use case is around marketing dashboards. And in there, what we offer is a super easy spreadsheet connection to all of the main marketing tools, be them from SEM, from advertising sources, so Google ads and YouTube ads and Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter ads. So we have all of those sources connected. And so you can grab all that data and build your custom dashboard, and then also mix and match that with more organic data from, for example, Google Analytics and other sources of organic data. The third use case is in the operation space. This is kind of like building your internal tools, right? And what you can do with ROSE is use our super powerful sharing platform, right? So you can add buttons and all of these interactions to the spreadsheet and then share them with your team. And you can build your ERPs, your operations tracker. Really, you can manage from a restaurant up to a shipping operation, all within ROSE. In talking about other productivity tools, I think it's important to note this no-code flavor, right? And there's plenty of no-code tools. The way we see it, really, no-code is more about this property of tools rather than a segment or a category of tools itself, right? So there will be a no-code variant of spreadsheets, and we think that that's ROSE, that's us. There will be a database and Microsoft Access variant of no-code tools, which is Airtable. There's going to be a website builder variant of that, which is probably Webflow. There's also these point-to-point connectors, which is Zapier. And really, no-code, low-code is a term that means all of the tools which are trying to give more power to end users, right? So we're trying to build platforms where some of these super skills that engineers have can be yielded by normal people, by business people, and why that's important. It's because as this revolution of the internet and of software continues to evolve, it's important to give every employee the option and the power to really create better workflows, a better job for themselves. And that is achieved through better tools, custom tools that encode their own thoughts, their own processes, and not just the same process for everybody. And I think it's incredible to be in this space with Airtable and everyone else. I think one of the questions which we get a lot is, so what is the difference between Rose and Airtable? I think it's really in this choice of the base tool. So Airtable is really trying to be this database, this super powerful database for businesses, right? And so you can create these structured types of data and you can fill them out and you can have some automations around that. And I think it works super well, right? Whereas Rose is trying to replace spreadsheet itself. And spreadsheets are these much more flexible, much less opinionated form of building tools, right? So you can build anything from a business plan or a tracker for your expenses or any kind of accounting document. You can build it there, but you can also build lists. You can also build your own CRM. You can build many different types of things. I think we want to be more on this spreadsheet side of productivity tools. I think where this really hits is the kind of things which you can do in practice, right? I think with Rose, the fact that we are pretty flexible and we have these powerful connections to APIs gives us a unique position, for example, in having this data for lead generation and lead enrichment, right? So we have these connections to LinkedIn where you can actually get data without even having an account. We also have connections to Google Maps, etc. So not only can you enrich objects with that, but you can also find all of the restaurants in Berlin. You can find all of the consulting companies or consulting offices in New York. So you can find those pretty well in our tool, and that's pretty unique because we have this better connection to integrations. I think on the sharing side, which is our other core feature, I think that the fact that we are not a solution purely built on top of forms, right? So I think Airtable is pretty powerful because it has this structured data to have forms where you can fill out and edit this data, right? But with Rose, you can really build a web application, right? So our forms are not limited to inputs. Like you can really do any kind of dynamic system that is formula-based inside it. And with automations and webhooks and all of this stuff which we're building, I think it will only become more powerful with time.
Well, finally, thank you everyone for coming today. It has been incredibly insightful and joining this espresso shot format session. It has been a pleasure having you all here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.